I've said time and again that we're going to assemble a city hall that will be characterized by excellence. And anyone who's interested in being part of that city hall will be assessed on the work that they've done, no matter who appointed them. And I'm excited to be building that and frankly to have started a transition with 4 incredible co-chairs who show exactly that excellence in the work that they've done.
The residents of this city have spoken, and it's been very clear, and they've done it in amazing numbers, and their response to the Mamdani campaign is that this has to happen. So I don't see it as a question of choice, but there is, how do we get there?
Welcome to New York One's Off Topic on Politics. I'm New York One's investigative reporter, Courtney Gross. We are a week, well, actually more than a week into the transition from Mayor-elect Adams to Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. We were going to catch you up on everything that we know about that transition and what could happen in the Mamdani administration. And then, believe it or not, there's already another race we are watching. We are going to discuss in the second part of our episode today, the city council speaker's race. There are 5 candidates thus far. We will tell you who is at the top, theoretically. Bobby Cuza.
Hey, Courtney.
It's a very special someone's birthday also.
Wait, it's Bobby Cuza's birthday?
Feliz cumpleaños a ti.
She just wanted to sing. Bernadette Hogan is also here.
No, it's Bobby's birthday.
I'm
a New
actually,
York One legend, Courtney.
I'm actually at retirement age, so this is going to be my last podcast.
Is it actually your birthday?
It is my birthday.
No, it's his birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Did you not read
Birthday.
Political Playbook this morning?
No,
It's all over the news.
Person in there.
You're a Scorpio.
Yeah, I know. Explains a lot, right?
A Scorpio.
So what are the things that like identify
Scorpios?
as a
I feel like are
Scorpio?
more aggressive and like. Well, I don't want to get.
Well, I'm
like,
a Capricorn.
hate mail.
I'm aggressive.
I don't want to like. But one of my best friends is Scorpio, so I'm not
One of my
trying
best friend- no.
to say that Scorpios are bad people, and
Yeah.
we love Bobby Cuza. But Bobby Cuza isn't really a Scorpio. I find
No.
Scorpios to be like a slightly more two-faced, and I feel like Bobby's
not.
a little bit.
Bobby's like
My best friend
nasty.
isn't two-faced either.
Right.
Let's just move on.
We'll think about it later.
Yeah. Okay. So Mamdani, who's a Libra, by the way, before my birthday. We're born in this, like he's the 18th and I'm the 19th of October. Anyway, he has already appointed his top 2 people into the administration. Bernadette Hogan. Who are they?
So we have Dean Fuleihan, who will be the first deputy mayor. That's a really, really important position. I mean, basically, it's the person that is it's the right-hand person to the mayor and speaks with the voice of the mayor. It's also important because Dean Fuleihan is a long-time city government and state government aide, right? He worked for Mayor Bill de Blasio, and he also worked for the now deceased, very powerful State Assembly Speaker Shelley Silver. And this is important because Mamdani is going to have a huge battle ahead of him with the state government and trying to get money from the legislature and the governor, having them sign off, which would fund all of his policy promises. Also, we have Elle Bisgaard-Church, who is roughly the same. Oh, also, and I guess the age thing matters. Dean Fuleihan is, what is he?
74.
We didn't even
He's
ask Bobby
74.
how old he was.
Yeah, how old is he?
That's not important.
Yeah.
It's impolite. Never ask a lady her age. But Dean Fuleihan has been around for a while, and it's also interesting because Mamdani is 34 years old. I believe Elle Bisgaard-Church is also 34. She's in her 30s.
Been around a while. He was working in city government well before Zohran Mamdani was even born.
Dean was.
And probably before you.
Yeah.
Probably before I was born.
Yeah.
And
And this
far
guy's
back
got
that
his
goes.
AARP card right now. But Elle Bisgaard-Church, she will be his chief of staff, which is the role that she occupies currently as Mamdani is the state assemblyman from Queens.
But a chief of staff for an assembly district
Is
is
totally
a little bit
different.
different than chief of staff for City Hall.
It's totally different, and also it'll probably be a big learning curve for her because although she successfully was able to engineer this really successful mayoral win and was his campaign strategist, going then into city government is just going to be a whirlwind. And she cold applied to work for his assembly office in 2020, right? Because that was when he won the special election, has been with him throughout, and then again, was his right-hand person throughout the campaign, but going into city government, which, look, coming from covering the state to covering City Hall, I mean, it's just 2 vastly different bureaucratic leviathans. So it'll be interesting to see how that relationship develops. And if she ends up staying in that role or she ends up, maybe he appoints her to something else.
Well, I think
within the
that's why.
administration.
I mean, the announcement is you had like the new guard and the old guard.
Yeah.
The hesitation, or what's the right word? The
Skepticism.
reluctance
Yeah.
of some people to vote for Zohran Mamdani was obviously his age and his inexperience, that he only ran an assembly district with 5 staffers.
Right.
Meanwhile, now you're going to be in charge of a city bureaucracy
300,000
that's 300,000 workers,
Right.
and therefore in comes Dean Fuleihan.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because the announcement, he paired these two people. It's kind of what he did during the general election campaign, where he was trying to do two things. He was trying to show people, on the one hand, his base, that he's bringing youth and excitement and this leftist ideology and these big policy ideas, but then at the same time trying to reassure people who are more moderate and people in the business community, people who are more jittery about a democratic socialist being in charge, that there was going to be stability, and he was going to bring in people who were experienced. We saw that with the Jessica Tisch announcement when he said he was going to ask her to stay on as police commissioner. And then with Dean Fuleihan, it's like, well, I might be 34 and my chief of staff is 34, and we're both relatively inexperienced, which he kind of acknowledges.
Yeah.
But we're bringing in this guy who's been working in city and state government for 50 years, basically.
A while, yeah.
And, he knows government inside and out. He worked under the de Blasio administration, first as budget director and then as first deputy mayor. So he's basically done this. He's done this job before.
He's done the job, right.
And I don't know that there's many people alive who know how city and state government operates better than Dean Fuleihan.
And that, again, like the learning curve there, I look, I'm the outside looking in as a reporter. It still to this day is confusing to me. And so if you have somebody that can be an ally in basically teaching him and his new appointments and hire, I mean, they'll retain a lot of city government staff, right? You have civil service, like there's still a lot
There's
of
the bureaucracy that exists and will continue to exist. It's really just the figureheads. It's the commissioners. It's the deputy mayors. These are the people that you're going to see replaced.
And people that can pull the lever, because the most important thing is, do you have somebody that can say, listen, I've done this before, here's how we operate here. And then again, going back to Dean Fuleihan's experience in state government, this kind of, I kind of saw it as a bit of a shot across the bow, as like, hey, don't worry, like to his supporters, we've got somebody that has seen the books up in state government. We've already, here's our chess piece going forward. The other question will be, though, how long does Fuleihan stay? Is he just there to get, take away the bumpers, right? And does he stay there for a year? Does he stay there for 2 years? And then does Mamdani change? Who is his first deputy mayor? I asked him the other day in the Bronx, did you have to sign off on a Fuleihan appointment by the governor? Or is this kind of you saying, look, I'm not going to totally redo City Hall in my image and in my policy standpoint. Again, he's a democratic socialist. People have been concerned about that brand of being a Democrat. And he said, listen, I make all my own appointments. Obviously, I talked to the governor, but...
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't surprised that Fuleihan had been appointed.
No, his name has been out there.
Exactly. It was a lot of the names that are out there, honestly, are de Blasio administration names, which is the narrative that people had talked about during the campaign was this going to be just de Blasio 2.0?
Right.
Yeah, you had Cuomo say he was a mini me of de Blasio. Curtis Lewis said it was going to be de Blasio 2.0, which is not supposed to be a good thing given how unpopular it was when de Blasio left office. But it's not like Dean Fuleihan is associated with any of the missteps or any of the mistakes made by the de Blasio administration.
To the gym every morning
in Park Slope? No. He was at his desk with his head down.
You would see Dean walk into City Hall. This was back when I was at City Hall a lot more, almost on a daily basis. And Dean would be walking in pretty early.
Yeah.
This is someone who has a very good reputation and is a bit of a workhorse. And the one thing, he was on our show Inside City Hall with Errol Lewis this week, and he talked about the legislative agenda and how huge these proposals are. And he almost downplayed their magnitude by saying they're completely accomplished or able to be accomplished.
Accomplishable.
I was going to say accomplishable, but
right. He said doable. He downplayed it. The day of the appointment, I put it in my piece. The way he talked about it was just we can handle this. And I wonder if that part of that again is just part of the chess game where he's trying to act or just send a message to everyone that has been skeptical, that didn't vote for him, the business class, the donor class. Listen,
we got this.
We've got this. And I think that idea of, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, does bring comfort to people because, I've had anecdotally texts from people saying, should I move out of the city? How much is it going to change? And
Don't worry, Dean Fuleihan's here.
Don't worry, Dean's
Everybody
here.
relax.
But I mean, look, like the way that government works is, again, it's a Leviathan. And if you have somebody that understands it, it definitely helps. Another thing I wanted to point out, I forget what Bobby was saying. He's speaking so fast. Jeez. The Mamdani people, their transition team, their press team has blasted that they've had over 50,000 resumes sent in to work for city government, which, look, like at the end of the day, that is a good thing because
There's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Lately.
a lot of layoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
sign of the times. But one thing that city and state government has been dying from is the lack of new blood, partially because civil service is extremely bureaucratic and it's tough to like get in. You can't just like hire and fire easily. But if you have like newer or younger people excited about an administration or excited to just work in city government, there you go. There's your next like generation of city workers. Now the question will be though, can they get in as quick as, those applications are thrown in?
So we haven't heard yet about Jessica Tisch. I've been trying to get in touch with
No.
1PP and we don't
Mamdani hasn't
know.
even talked to her yet about it.
Yeah, we don't know
But don't they
what's
have
happening there.
I don't know, somebody said they have a meeting scheduled soon. It's a meeting on the books, apparently, that was reported. So
I think that was him and Adams for the transition.
No, with Tish.
With
So
Tish.
yeah, so every time I say Tish, I feel like
it's
I'm
really
thinking of
confusing.
Letitia James. We're talking about Jessica Tish.
C and an S.
Because he announced back right before the debate a few weeks ago that he was asking her to stay on. But as far as we know, they haven't had a meeting since then.
And
so
I was with him yesterday in Harlem and we ran and asked him that because he's going to continue to get that question.
right.
But the question was, have you talked to Jessica Tisch? And are you, have you talked to her about staying on? He said, I haven't talked to her since or before. Now I'm forgetting
He looks forward to talking to her. Is probably what he said.
But regardless, the upshot was he has not talked to her yet, which I know it's only been a week, but still it's like you're going to continue to get this question. And we don't know if she even wants to stay on. I will say the strongest indication, though, when I was at Somos in Puerto Rico with the governor, a reporter asked her, do you think Jessica Tisch wants to stay on? And the governor said, well, I wouldn't keep pushing it and saying it out loud in public if I didn't think she did.
I was speaking to Bill Bratton this week, and who's seen as her mentor, and he was saying, she's so smart. She has such a good grasp of technology, such a good grasp of where this apartment could be led. And originally he was one of the people who was like, Tish, run, don't stay.
Sure.
And he's completely changed his tune,
Right.
saying that this administration needs consistency, especially for those who are concerned about what might happen on public safety and crime under a Mamdani administration, that Tish should stay. I was just looking on X to see Mamdani is having an event right now in Brooklyn. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the moment where we find out what's going to happen. But he's at a daycare. It doesn't look like he's going to be making any big announcement that we're aware of as of almost noon on Thursday.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for the Mamdani Jessica Tish meeting. See how that goes down.
Because they are not aligned on a lot of different topics.
Right. And one of the things people haven't talked about as much because there's so much focus on the free buses and the universal childcare and the tax hikes and everything that's going to have to happen in Albany to get that stuff passed. We haven't talked about the Department of Community Safety. I mean, he basically wants to create a whole department that's going to operate sort of in tandem with the police department with, I think, like $1 billion budget.
$1 billion budget.
And Jessica Tisch is gonna have to sign off on that and work to make that happen. And that's a big, big deal.
And part of that department is supposed to handle mental health calls. And having done a lot of reporting on this over the years, I mean, the idea that cops won't necessarily show up to all of these calls is really antagonistic to the beliefs of the NYPD and even some of the mental health workers, honestly, that I've interviewed over the years who get concerned about the danger at times for some of these calls. And it's very difficult to figure out how to triage them, not to go down this mental health rabbit hole.
But it's true though. I mean, when the governor and Mayor Adams, when Adams first was inaugurated, right, his first year, and you were there and I was there at a different outlet. Courtney and I were competitors at the time, but they announced this big, the SOS teams, right, which provided cops with mental health workers, and then later now the iteration is getting people off the streets and without their consent, putting them into hospital beds. So you've had this relationship between mental health workers and the NYPD. It's not new, but to strip those teams from a cop, I mean, that will be like a really interesting way to do it, because also
it's been done in smaller scales
Yes.
other places in the country. Everyone always points to this program called Cahoots, which was in Oregon, but that program no longer exists because it basically, they couldn't fund it anymore. It was
Yeah.
run by a nonprofit and basically didn't have the money, because these programs, these initiatives, they're not only difficult to implement, but it's possible. I don't want to
what was
completely
the
poo-poo
success
it.
rate for that too?
They said it was very successful. They said that it like
what
really
city?
diverted. I don't have the numbers on the off the top of my head, but it really diverted the number of calls that would end up in the PD and would lower arrests and all of the things and advocates that people talk about when they think about mental health and the interaction of the police and policing basically mental health. But they ran out of money. So this idea that you're going to separate mental health calls from the NYPD infrastructure is just an incredibly costly thing that, like you said, Bern, we haven't really been talking about. I do want to mention...
we don't know who will lead it either. He hasn't
Exactly.
said.
That leads me back to the transition team. The other bit of news that we've talked or heard about since election night is obviously there is a transition team, right? We didn't get this week. Last time we taped, it was election night, right?
Yeah, but he announced the transition chairs the next day after election day.
We haven't talked about them yet. So, but you know, the person leading the transition is Maria Torres Springer, who is obviously the former deputy mayor under Eric Adams, very well respected. A lot of the other people on it are former de Blasio alums. Then you have Lena Khan, who's a former FTC, Federal Trade Commission chair under the Biden administration. All women. Can we glean anything from these appointments about where the direction of the administration might be going and who else could potentially be joining?
I mean, I think it was kind of similar to what I was saying before with the two appointments this week, was that there are people who are, more ideologically aligned with Mamdani, and then also people who are more experienced hands who are on the transition team. But I think we're going to start seeing on an almost daily basis some of these jobs rolled out. I mean, we're looking for a schools chancellor, right? Yeah. I mean, that's probably the next big appointment that he'll announce. Also, another name that's been kicked around a lot is Dan Garodnick, who was the head of city planning under Mayor Adams, a longtime city councilman.
People thought he was going to be first deputy mayor.
Right. Yeah, his name seemed to be getting floated for first deputy mayor. And Garodnick is one of those names who people often use as an example of like one of the smartest hires that was made by the Adams administration. He basically shepherded through the whole City of Yes housing proposal. So it seems, there's a lot of talk that he might be up for a top job. Also, Brad Lander, we used to think might be in line for a top job in the administration.
He's running for Goldman seat.
Now, he hasn't said he's running for Congress, but it seems like maybe that's where things are headed. That he plans to run. I mean, he's definitely interested in running.
I don't think he definitively announced, but I feel like as soon as the sales, the wind was taken out of the first deputy mayor sales for him,
and I think that
for
was the
whatever
only job
reason
he wanted.
I think that was the one piece of the administration.
It's funny when you go back to June and like the day that Mamdani won the primary, everybody just assumed all of a sudden Brad Lander was going to be first deputy mayor in the Mamdani administration, and that feels like a long time ago. Yeah. So I think he's probably on the outs. I don't know. I mean, there's so many jobs that have to get filled from agency heads and commissioners and people who nobody will have heard of. And there's people who are in the Adams administration who are jockeying to try to keep their job. And you probably got that. You probably saw that at Somos.
Oh my God! In Puerto Rico, you just see people and you're like, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? Everyone was like auditioning. I was like,
describe, in case our listeners may not know what Somos is, that's the conference that everybody goes to in Puerto Rico following election day, and Bern was there.
Yeah, and it started out as like a way to build unity between the U.S. and mainland and Puerto Rico, but also especially after Hurricane Maria. So it was like kind of like a service trip, and now it's turned into a complete just like political junket where like lobbyists, consultants, elected officials, wannabe elected officials go to like get FaceTime. And it's like great for reporters because it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You're like, to my photographer, I'm like, those people are talking, get them on camera, go get them. Oh, hold on, get me my mic. Let's go get them right now. They're running away from me. You know what I mean? That's what you do. So what was
the school chancellor did run away from you
twice. But then she ended up, to her credit, she ended up talking to me. She just was like, I'm sorry, I am still a part of the Adams administration. I needed to get kind of approval. And I was like, okay, but still, like, you're at a political conference and you know we're going to be there. You know what the deal is. What was the point I was making?
People who are jockeying for jobs. People from the Adams administration,
so all these
right?
Adams official people were there. Administration, past and present. And one person, Adonis Rodriguez, right, the head of the DOT, recently came out, the Daily News reported it, that he is endorsing Mamdani. Now, Adonis Rodriguez is a massive Adams ally, like huge surrogate of his in 2021, became a DOT commissioner, but also transit advocates do not like him because he has either put a stop on or killed many constructions of bus and bike lanes, and then he's reversed some. But anyway, I mean, one could assume with the hope that he would stay on in that current role. But for Mamdani, the free bus program in transit is a huge deal for him. I mean, that seems like a hope and a wish right there for an Adonis Rodriguez. But then if you see a Dan Garodnick, who was also there, and he didn't want to be on camera either, but he's somebody who, you know, if you just put your head down and you like, here's my laurels, like, again, the City of Yes is a huge accomplishment. But also, Mamdani is going to continue to need someone that knows what's going on with zoning and how to pull all the levers. He could be a decent pick to continue on.
We shall see. That will be the conclusion of our Mamdani portion of this podcast. Stick with us for our YouTube listeners. We will be here. Stick with us.
We're not moving.
We're not going. For our podcast
Bobby
listeners,
isn't.
we will be right back after this very short break.
There's so many areas of commonality around universal childcare, about building more affordable housing. I'm really excited about the council having a proactive vision.
I'm excited about the big, broad coalition that I've continued to build throughout my career. And in this race, it's no different.
I've met with almost every single council member, many of them in their home districts, to meet them where they're at and tell them that I'm the one that's actually going to bring change.
I think it's really important as an outer borough member that is starting from a really great foundation of what working families are looking for, to be leading the rest of the city in that way.
Okay, so we previewed this at the top of the podcast. There is another race happening, believe it or not. It is the City Council speaker race. We know that all of the members of the City Council were up for re-election this year as well. Some of them were term limited out, including the current speaker, Speaker Adrienne Adams, which means that the body must elect a new leader. Now, this is not something, Bobby, as we know, and we will educate our listeners on this. This is not something that we as New Yorkers get to pick. This is something that the 51 members of the City Council get to vote on. Just like the House Speaker, you know, you don't have any say over who the Speaker of the House is. 26 members will decide who the next Speaker is.
Yes. 26 members?
26.
What about the 51? Oh, you mean the majority of the
majority of the
majority
council.
Of the 51?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I see. Yes. The majority. I see what I was like, what do you mean? You need 26
There are 51
votes.
council members.
There are 51 council members.
Yes. The 51 council
Sorry.
members, and only the 51 council members actually get to vote on who the speaker is, even though it's the second most powerful position in city government. Mm-hmm. Yes, we the people do not get a say. And it's a little bit of a backroom dealing type of process. Not a lot. A lot of it happens in Puerto Rico, but that's why Bernadette was there to shine some light on the process.
She came back with a great tan too.
But that is where it happens, right?
Was genetically engineered to live in a bog. Yeah, I mean, they all the speaker. Did you list off? I know I'm distracted. Did you list off who the contenders are?
No, you go.
Why don't you do it?
No, you do it.
All right, fine. Julie Menon is she's a Manhattan Democrat. She's raised a ton of money. She has the endorsement of
Upper East Side.
Right, Upper East Side. Endorsement of the powerful hotel and gaming trades union.
Julie Menon has generally been considered a front runner for a long time.
Yeah.
But the problem is that people, you know, the whispers and the circles, what they say is they're like, okay, another Manhattan City Council speaker, right? We had Corey Johnson,
Chris Quinn,
Gifford
Miller,
Melissa Mark Viverito.
Yeah. All of them. Wow.
All of them. So they're like, we need to branch out. Crystal Hudson, Brooklyn Council member. She is she's part of the Progressive Caucus. People like to put her in a Mamdani camp. Mamdani, of course, has not said who his favorite is yet.
She endorsed Mamdani too. Meanwhile, Menon did not endorse during the mayoral election
Right,
because she
right.
said that she wanted to stay out of it.
And Menon is also seen as like more of like a moderate to progressive, and Menon has also been in city government before. She was the commissioner of
Cultural affairs, and she also did
She's in charge of the
TV.
census,
She
right?
did a bunch of things.
Yeah,
she's done a lot. She's done a lot.
She's been in
The
government for a long
TV
time.
and film office. I can't remember what it's called. Mayor's office of media.
I thought it was small business and consumer. Well, we're clearly not prepared anyway. So
Consumer affairs. It was TV, then consumer affairs.
yes, so they changed the names. Anyway, so Crystal Hudson has really come out as like the progressive candidate, and she has a rezoning going on right now in her district in Brooklyn. She held a ton of meetings. I mean, she and Menon also held, we can call them competing events in Brooklyn, and it was
Puerto Rico.
and it was interesting to see who was there and who wasn't there.
Did you go?
I stopped by a bunch of them, but I was also on TV a lot, Bobby.
Yeah,
So
you were working.
I was working.
But I get the impression it's kind of neck and neck between Menon and Crystal Hudson.
No, okay, so but then we haven't talked about the other people. So Amanda Farias from the Bronx, and then you have Sylvina Brooks Powers from Rockaway, Queens, and then we have Chris Marte from the Lower East Side. So like someone's described it to me as like, although Julie Menon has the money and maybe the endorsements, Greg Meeks also likes her, the representative from Queens.
Who kind of made,
Adrienne Adams, the kingmaker, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He's often the kingmaker when it comes to this. And we should mention, even though it's the 51 members of the city council that vote, all these other stakeholders weigh in, and that really influences the body. So you see your county leaders, like oftentimes you're going to want to see delegations from each of the boroughs try to stick together so that they have more of a block vote, which means that they're deferring to their county leader, which means that Greg Meeks,
which is why
the county leader and representative from Queens, has such a big sway.
Yeah, it's an indication that the Queens members are for Menon.
It seems like Queens and the Bronx, the county Democratic parties have had a lot of sway, and then the unions, and then, like you said, the mayor may or may not kind of try to put his thumb on the scale, and that's what happened with Mayor Adams in 2021, and he backed Francisco Moya, and it didn't work out, which I think
is how Adrienne Adams became speaker,
right? But to your
Blasio
point,
did it with Melissa Mark
and she was his pick.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if this is where you were going, Bern, but it seems like
where I was going, to be honest.
like maybe even though there's these two front runners, like maybe there's a third candidate who becomes a consensus candidate.
As they say.
If one or the other fall, if the two front runners.
Yes, if they can't be the consensus candidate, or like again, like Julie Menon and a Crystal Hudson, it appears like it's neck and neck between them. But is there a person that can like unite those that are really not too hot on either of them?
Yeah, there was someone who told me that they each had 17 or 18 votes, but that's not confirmed.
But that's all nonsense. At the end of the day, it's like the horse trading was going on at Puerto Rico, and anybody who says like someone's the front runner and we're going to wrap it up here, it's not going to happen. All of that will be dealt with over the next couple of weeks.
I had heard that Menon wanted to wrap it up before.
She did.
Somos.
Of course she did, because she wants to shut it down. People, just get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, like it will matter what Mamdani has to say. She also...
We'll see though, because there is a bit of a backlash from my understanding amongst members of the city council for the way it went down last time, that Adrienne Adams is often referred to as the quote accidental speaker, because all of a sudden the Mayor-elect Adams tried to weigh in on the time, put his thumb on the scale, and everybody was kind of scrambling like, wait, so Justin Braden doesn't have the votes because he was running at the time, and then nobody wanted Moya because
Rivera.
Or
Mamdani. Oh my God. Adams was like anybody but Rivera.
So like all of a sudden it was like, I guess Adrienne Adams will be the consensus candidate. And literally within like a few days, she became the speaker of the city council.
Yeah.
So members are trying to be slightly more, what I'm being told, deliberative this time.
Yeah.
And actually, we'll see if this actually happens, but I was told that they want to keep all the other stakeholders out of the process and make them less influential, whether that is the new mayor-elect or the unions. In fact, I'd heard that, I don't know if it's happened yet, but there was some talk about trying to have like a forum with all of the candidates that was only for the for the actual city council members. We've hosted debates for this before, even though it hasn't actually mattered what New Yorkers think.
I
and
didn't know
plenty
that.
of community groups have hosted debates too. when in reality, the only people that matter are the 51 members of the city council in the room.
And those members, I mean, they're self-interested too, right? I mean,
Of course, they want to
the speaker is going to decide the committee chairs, the committee-ships, and staffing and resources.
Yes.
So, the council members are looking out for themselves, and so that's really the constituency.
The other thing too is also like the idea that whoever the next speaker is, will they work in lockstep or will they be a check on the mayor? So I think that's also coming into play here with like, say, a Menon council candidate. Will she be the like moderate check? Not necessarily also though, because Menon also sees herself as a progressive. I mean, Crystal Hudson's tried to also say like, I'm going to run my own city council like the way it runs and be a check on the mayor too.
Right. And Julie Menon, I mean, she's a moderate by city council standards, but the city council is such a progressive body that by anywhere else she would be seen as like an extreme left-leaning progressive.
But there's others that I'm like interested in, like even like a Yusuf Salam, who although is a very new council member, I've always seen him as somebody who's ambitious. He has a fascinating backstory. He chairs the powerful, crime and corrections. I always get the legislative and the city council. Public safety, right. Crime and corrections is his legislature. Anyway, I was like, I could see him as a city council speaker candidate.
I feel like it's too late to jump in the game. But then
it might be, but then who bridges? I mean, Adrienne Adams was someone that wasn't even thought of, but now it's like
I think she was an announced candidate at the time. But was definitely not a front runner.
Mamdani was asked about this in Puerto Rico, right? If he's going to weigh in on the race, and he basically said no.
No, he said no, and he said that the other day.
But it would seem as though Crystal Hudson might be slightly more ideologically aligned with him and aligned with him on his priorities. So I don't know, but maybe he doesn't want to be seen as meddling and having it potentially backfire. And remember, Mamdani also didn't want to weigh in on the housing ballot proposals, which we all interpreted as him not wanting to get on the wrong side of council members.
Council members, but also unions. Think about like the unions that have backed him. DC 37 was an early and often backer of him pre-primary. Yeah. They were not on board with the housing ballot proposals, and they're the largest they're the ones that like the city council Adrienne Adams, the speaker Adrienne Adams like won the speakership because of the assistance from that union. So like, that's why the outside influence part gets tricky, because it depends. Okay, are these people going to be beholden or not?
Yeah. It will be unfolding over the next couple of weeks. We will keep you posted as it chugs along, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for rolls along, whatever.
Merrily, it rolls along.
That's going to do it for this week's episode. You can always watch us on Inside City Hall weeknights at 7:00. You can give us feedback as well at yourstoryNewYork1@charter.com. You can subscribe to Off Topic wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks to our producer, Anthony Roman. And thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
And happy birthday, Bobby.
Happy birthday, Bobby.